Hello, Gaudi class. Our English for the next few weeks is going to be based on the book Man on the Moon, A Day in the Life of Bob by Simon Bartram. Today, I'm going to read you the story and then we're going to be looking at some of the vocabulary that's used in it. This book is a recount, which means that it tells something that has already happened. So whilst I'm reading it to you, I want you to think about what it is that the story is recounting. What is it retelling you? This is Bob. Perhaps you've heard people talk of him. You may know him better as the man on the moon. This is where Bob lives. Every morning he rises at 6 o'clock. He has a cup of tea and 2 eggs for breakfast before leaving for the rocket launch pad. On the way, he stops to buy a newspaper and some chocolate toffees. He's on his way to work, on the moon. By 8 o'clock, Bob arrives at the launch pad, changes into his special man on the moon suit, and boards his fantastic rocket ship. He must make sure he leaves by 8:45, otherwise he wouldn't make it to the moon by 9. On the way, he reads the newspaper and does the crossword. Bob starts work. His job as man on the moon is very important. He has to keep the moon clean and tidy. Quite often, astronauts drop sweet packets and cans. Some people say that the aliens are responsible for much of the rubbish, but Bob knows that that's not true. There's no such thing as aliens. By 12:30, it's time to eat. Bob goes to his rocket ship to fetch his lunchbox. This usually contains 2 sandwiches, either cheese or peanut butter, an apple, and some chocolate-covered nuts. Sometimes he meets his friends for a picnic. His 2 best friends are Billy, the man on Mars, and Sam, the man on Saturn. They talk about the stars and tell jokes. After lunch, tourist spaceships start arriving from Earth. It is part of Bob's job to entertain them and give them something to photograph. So he does somersaults, handstands, and especially high moon jumps. Sometimes he performs for as long as 2 hours and is left quite out of puff. Occasionally, the tourist spaceships will land on the moon. When they do, Bob gives them a guided tour and a speech. He tells them lots of facts, such as how many craters the moon has or how long it will take to walk around it on stilts. Sometimes people ask him about aliens, and Bob explains patiently that there aren't any. Afterwards, Bob opens a small souvenir stand selling postcards, pencils, mugs, and small plastic moon models. By 4:30, all visitors must leave the moon. Bob looks around to see that everyone has left. He checks inside any big craters in case anyone has fallen in, but there's never anyone there. The working day is nearly over. It is time to check everything is in order before leaving for the night. Bob packs away his equipment and any unsold souvenirs into his rocket. He switches on the moon's nightlight before jetting off towards Earth. By this time, he is very tired, but he still has to keep his wits about him while flying the rocket. As he reaches Earth, it's about 5 o'clock. The rush hour is in full swing, with everyone leaving work and going home, just like Bob. At home, Bob is just like anyone else. First, he has a long bath. Moon work can make you very grubby, as sometimes the dust can get inside your suit. Then he goes to bed with a mug of cocoa. He sleeps soundly, bathed in moonbeams, very happy to be the man on the moon. And aliens? Well, Bob would know if there were any, wouldn't he? Such a lovely story. So we're going to look at some of the words that were used in the story. So the first one is when he arrived at the launch pad. My turn, your turn. Launch pad. Launch pad. What do you think a launch pad is? A launch pad is where a rocket takes off from to go into space. And that's a picture of a real live launch pad. Our next word is swept. He swept up all the rubbish. Swept. Swept. What does swept mean? Swept means that he used a broom to clean up the mess. So he swept up the rubbish with a broom. And this time we've got the same one, but this time we're looking at rubbish. He swept up all the rubbish. 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 What does rubbish mean? It's a word we use a lot. But what is rubbish? Rubbish is something that you no longer want that goes in the bin. So it might be something that's broken, or it might be something that's old that you don't need anymore. So that the moon was spotless, spotless, spotless. What do you think spotless means? Spotless means completely clean. Is your bedroom spotless? I think my husband would be very happy if I kept my bedroom spotless. I'm very good at throwing things on the floor and forgetting to pick them up. Shh. The next one. When the tourists arrived. Tourists. Tourists. What do you think tourists mean? What are tourists? A tourist is someone who travels to see new places for fun. Have you ever been a tourist? Have you ever been anywhere and seen somewhere new? You might have just gone by car or train or plane and visited somewhere. Have you been a tourist? Next word. Bob entertained them with somersaults. 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 What do you think somersaults means? Somersault is something you do in gymnastics where you do a roll and you go with your feet go over your head. You're supposed to land back on your feet again. He gave them a guided tour. Guided tour. Guided tour. What is a guided tour? What do you think it means? A guided tour is when someone who knows a place shows you around and tells you all about it. So it would be like if somebody came to visit our school and you showed them round and you showed them this is where nursery is, this is year 2, this is the dinner hall, you would give them a guided tour. And sold them souvenirs, souvenirs, souvenirs. What are souvenirs? So he sold them souvenirs. A souvenir is something that you have that reminds you of a place you have been. So it might be a model of somewhere you've been. It might be a notebook or a pencil that's got the name of the place you went to written on it, so you can remember your time there. So when you look at it, you remember, it brings back a memory of where you went. And our last one is he jetted off home. Jetted. Jetted. What does jetted mean? Now, obviously, he went in a rocket. But jetted just means he went really quickly. So if you were really in a hurry to get somewhere, then we might say you jetted off down the corridor to get to where you needed to be. Your task for today is to use the new vocabulary that we've learnt in your own sentences. So for your first challenge, you can choose any 2 of those words to use in a sentence. So you might say, my mum asked me to help her while she swept the floor. Or my brother jetted off when my mum told him it was bath time. Or I bought a souvenir to remind me of my time on holiday. If you're feeling slightly braver, or you want a bigger challenge, maybe you could choose 4 of the words to write about. And if you're feeling super excited and really bored and you really want a huge challenge, then maybe you could use all the words. So you might need to go back through this video to look at what the different words were and see if you can use them in your own sentences. So see if we go back to guided tour. Well, I gave you one of those. We had a visitor at school, so I gave them a guided tour of the school. I'm not very good at doing somersaults. Or I told you that my husband wishes I kept my bedroom spotless, but I don't. And please remember to put all your rubbish in the bin. I really look forward to seeing your work, Gaudi class. So you can upload it onto Tapestry, take a photo of it, or you could read your sentences and record yourself reading them. You could type them up on a computer, and you can either put them on Tapestry or you can send them through as an email to Year 2 teachers@langleyacademyprimary.org. See you next time.